Good morning. I'm Chief Devin LaForce, and it is with deep sadness and frustration that I stand here today in the wake of 3 consecutive traffic fatalities in the past 48 hours. In each of these collisions, speed was a factor in the loss of life. In each, there was no reason or need for the speed that caused such a tragic loss of life. And we all know that with summer weather, speeds have a tendency to go up, motorcycles come out, and the weekend traffic gets busier, all of which have the potential to increase fatal collisions in our city. In 2024, there were 26 fatal collisions, 7 of which involved motorcycles. This year, we are already at 13, 3 of which involved motorcycles. Preliminary findings indicate that 7 of this year's fatal collisions involve speed as a factor. That's 53%. Which is why we're speaking to the public today to remind everyone to please slow down. It could literally save your life. I know we will talk today about the tools we need as police, and we should, but there is no escaping that the lack of tools is no reason for the speeds that we are seeing. People act like it's a free-for-all out there, and it's not. Honestly, a ticket should be the least of your worries. Your own life and those of others that you might impact should worry you. The people that have lost their life are all sons and daughters, brothers, sisters, friends, family members, colleagues, not to mention the impact on first responders as well. These tragedies impact the whole community in such a profound way. Traffic safety remains a top priority, and in Edmonton, we still use automated enforcement at playgrounds, construction sites, and red light cameras. And of course, our in-person speed enforcement continues as always. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Edmonton Police Service ran an Operation 24 Hours event, a one-day enforcement campaign that saw 695 traffic violations, 195 of which were speed-related. Our officers will be out there all summer enforcing speeds, but we count on drivers to obey the law and their own common sense. We all know speed kills. We are all responsible for the safety of our roads. I'd now like to introduce Acting Superintendent Brad Mandrusiak with our Investigations and Support Services Bureau to go over some specific details of those events. Brad.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the Chief has mentioned already, my name is Brad Mandrusiak. I'm the Acting Superintendent in charge of the Operational Support Division. My normal job is actually the Inspector in charge of Traffic Services Branch. Hence the reason that I'm here today. It's always difficult to stand up here and talk about tragedies on our streets. I want to reiterate what Chief LaForce said. In under 48 hours, 3 people have lost their lives, have died as a result of accidents on our streets. These collisions have left loved ones grieving and asking questions that can't be answered. Not to mention the effects these incidents have on the community and our first responders. In some media coverage from the weekend, one person spoke about being traumatized after seeing the results of these crashes and described the scene as a war zone. While Edmonton police continue to investigate these collisions, I'm going to share what we know at this time. Starting with number 1. On the morning of Friday, May 23rd, around 10 a.m., a Cadillac Escalade driven by a 16-year-old male was heading north on 97th Street near 165 Avenue at a high rate of speed. The driver of a southbound Honda Civic went to turn left when it was struck by the Escalade. The 71-year-old driver of the Civic was taken to hospital where he was pronounced deceased, and speed is considered to be a factor in this crash. The second collision happened early Saturday morning. A BMW was heading south on 142nd Street when the driver lost control and struck a tree near 90th Avenue. The 36-year-old male driver was found deceased at the scene. And the next fatal collision happened just hours later on Winterburn Road. A 26-year-old male motorcyclist was heading north, and as he approached Westview Boulevard, he tried to pass a car by crossing left of the center line, pardon me. That's when the driver of that car made a left-hand turn. The motorcyclist struck the driver's side of the car and ended up in the ditch along with his vehicle. The motorcyclist was declared deceased at the scene. Speed on the part of the motorcycle is believed to be a factor in this collision as well. Well, I stand here today and talk about the importance of driving safely. Drivers are ultimately responsible for their actions. If you choose to engage in higher risk behaviors, it isn't just you you're putting in danger. It's everyone on the road with you. This weekend, our officers had to share the awful news to 3 families that their loved ones would not be coming home. That is never easy, and it never gets easier. The trauma that traffic fatalities cause to families, emergency responders, the community, and survivors of these collisions cannot be understated. They are arguably truly preventable by drivers choosing not to engage in high-risk behaviors. And as Chief LaForce stated, our traffic members are out there every day. Our patrol members are out there every day enforcing speed and other traffic safety-related types of laws. But we can't be everywhere at all times. We need to rely on you, the public, to assist us. We need drivers to obey the law and slow down. We need the public to assist us in getting us to where we need to be. And that's a safer roadways for all. Thank you very much, and take questions now.
Okay, just on top of I'm acting as a little bit of the side that I should.
Hi, it's Stephen Sandor here with the Edmonton Journal. City councillors were speaking this morning about losing some of the traffic enforcement tools, losing some photo radar. Do you feel losing these tools is hurting you in this battle in terms of trying to get drivers to slow down or enforcing the laws on the roads?
Well, I think any time you lose a tool in your tool belt, you're probably going to lose some of your effectiveness. It's just one tool in our tool belt. Would we prefer to have it? Yes, we probably would, and I'm sure the chief can speak to some of that. But it's just one tool in the tool belt, and we'll continue to do what we have to do, and we'll continue to enforce the law.
Darcy Ropchin, City News. Just on the photo radar front, I know Chief LaForce last Friday at City Hall, you mentioned that as well, that provincial changes to photo radar have hampered things a little bit. Is there any talk of advocating to the province or talking to them and saying we need maybe some of this back?
I think absolutely, and probably what we're seeing a little bit in Edmonton, and I'm sure other communities out there, is certainly time for our voice to be heard. And so when and certainly Superintendent Mandrusiak spoke to it well, and so it is absolutely part of a layered, robust traffic safety plan. And when you have automated enforcement at certain intersections, it's not always about the ticket. In fact, we care less about the ticket. We care less about that revenue stream, right? I care about driver behavior. And so we do know that when automated enforcement is at those key intersections, especially those high-risk intersections, driver behavior does change. And so it is part of that solution. It's not the only solution, but it is something that certainly contributes to traffic safety.
Tell me a little bit about that driver behavior. I mean, we see this happen at the start of summer almost every year now. What is it? Is it just weather's good, folks are out, they're not paying attention? What is that driver behavior behind it?
Yeah, I think you actually hit the nail right on the head, and that is, we've spent a number of months all cooped up and having to, drive to the conditions, to the weather conditions. People have very powerful vehicles now. They're very powerful motorcycles that are out there. And of course, there's also social media that, arguably is encouraging that type of behavior. And so, all those things combine, perhaps, I don't know for sure, but all those things seem to combine to create that perfect storm for us every year.
Madeline Cummings, CBC News. So with 13 fatalities already this year, that's the same number 2023 and 2024 combined. Is EPS changing its strategy, reallocating resources to have more officers out there doing patrols, given this spike we've seen this year?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So certainly when you start looking at where we're at 13 year to date, for some context, this date last year to date, we were at 5 fatalities. And so there was a number of fatalities last year, but where we're at this year is that much more aggravated, that much more of a problem. Something that we've been, on the route of for a while. And so we have a robust traffic safety plan from the Edmonton Police Service that we authored and put together from the great work of Mandrusiak's team here months ago. And so what that is a layered response. So we have a lot of traffic safety resources that are kind of those dedicated traffic enforcement officers, but absolutely it's a part of every police officer out there to contribute towards that traffic safety. And so we have a lot of patrol out there, a lot of beats, a lot of other teams out there that can all contribute to traffic safety by, again, just calling people to task when they see that risky driver behavior, whether it's be speeding or distracted driving or what have you.
What do you...
I'll just add to that, if I can. We also do we don't entertain, but we have an online portal too as well, where people are encouraged to file complaints when it comes to traffic safety. So certainly if somebody is experiencing something or has experienced something on the street that is not an emergency. So if it's an emergency where somebody is speeding at an unreasonable rate of speed, there's high risk that's involved, 911. But if it's something that is a traffic safety issue, get the license plate, go to the online portal, and please report it to us.
What do you attribute the increase in fatalities to? Do you think photo radar is part of it?
The reduction is like...
I think it's a combination of things. It's speed, high speed. It's the moment that you start to increase speed, the property damage to vehicles increases, the likelihood of severe injury and or death increases, the ability for people's vehicles to respond in the way that they think they're going to respond decreases. And of course, the response time goes out the window, and people cannot respond to what they're actually perceiving at the time or seeing at the time in front of them. And as a result, you end up with these catastrophic type accidents.
Here with CTV, one of the accidents, or several of them, were in residential areas where people might be walking by and could potentially get hit. What are your concerns with that in terms of, is there anything with these accidents, more areas that they're happening when it comes to people speeding? Are there particular areas that they like to go?
I think we see them across the city. I mean, there was we had a look at some of the data fairly recently. We get it. I think it's on a quarterly basis from our collision reporting partner, and it's sometimes tough to tell because honestly, there are just so many collisions that are occurring. Most of them property damage, thankfully, within the city of Edmonton. But what we are seeing is some of the more risky behavior is in areas that are along straightaways where people are, engaging in high speeds. And then, of course, at the end of the day, losing control and unfortunately losing their life at the same time. The one thing I did notice, I think it was on the accident on 142nd Street, was that there are trees along the boulevard, and those trees actually prevent those vehicles from getting into those areas where people might be walking. We might not have in some of the newer areas, we don't have the trees along the boulevard. So if it had happened in an area like that, that vehicle would have went directly into a house.
And my last question is just, you mentioned social media being a big part of this when it comes to, maybe young people wanting to speed and that sort of thing. Is there anything that I guess you have a message for youth or anything that can be done to, really tell them the impacts of driving this when people are really going for, likes and views these days? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I have 3 kids myself, and I talk to them every day about it. They're all 3 are active on social media. They all see this stuff on there. And parents need to inject some reality into what they're actually seeing. Parents need to have those difficult discussions about the risks that are associated with it. Risk to life, risk to property, risk in terms of impact to life if you survive, risk to your friends and family, risk to others, risk to the public. These are all very real.
Hi there, Kabi Malitan with Global.
I know you talked a little bit about you're more concerned about, just driver behavior. I know you also talked about there's one less tool with like photo radar, or at least in specific locations. Has EPS considered any other tools that could work, I guess, in terms of combating traffic fatalities?
Yeah, certainly something that we have been fairly loud about as well. And I spoke with Mayor and Council here last week on this as well. And that's another tool would be the ability to seize vehicles that are caught speeding over 50 kilometers an hour. And that's something that we're actively advocating for through the Alberta Association Chiefs of Police to the province of Alberta. More tools, again, to kind of act as that really functional deterrent to that really egregious driver behavior.
And I know, I guess a follow-up question to this is, obviously I know photo radar and the speed on green, that was more towards with the city. And I know police also issues its own speeding tickets. Do we have an idea in terms of how much speeding tickets or have been issued, I guess, in the last little while compared to maybe 2024? Do you have any rough numbers or stats on that?
Brad probably does, but I do know that our numbers are higher right this year than they were last year as far as and that would be our officers, as far as that officer enforcement kind of tickets. As far as any impact specifically on automated enforcement, I don't have. Brad, I don't know if you've got anything more to add.
Yeah, I mean, the only
Yeah, sorry.
To
The man again, go for it.
Okay.
100%. I think that's probably the best answer is that we can get you the data.
So, yeah, we can try and get that for you. Okay. Thanks, Brad.
One final question from me. You spoke about social media and the influences out there. I mean, every car manufacturer out there sells their vehicles based on a couple of things: how big their cars are and how fast they go. Sure. So is that part of combating the message when the vehicle manufacturers themselves are telling you this car can go 0 to 60 in X amount of seconds, or this big giant pickup truck can haul this much stuff?
Yeah, a great question, to be fair. I mean, that's obviously different marketing pieces for whatever your customers ultimately desire, I suppose. I know certainly a lot of people out there too look at safety features, right? And we certainly know the engineering of vehicles regarding safety features in vehicles has also went up immensely in recent decades. That being said, I think Superintendent Mandrusiak spoke to it well, though. As you have hit certain speeds, all of those engineering controls, all those engineering safeguards kind of go out the window. And so you really can compromise them through speed. And so I think it's just important to have that awareness. I think sometimes people feel a certain level of invulnerability, invincibility in vehicles, especially big, strong, fast, powerful vehicles. Whereas you have to really understand and really appreciate not just your life, but the lives of others here are at risk depending on how you're driving.
The switch out was lower speed minus red dental.
Yes.
There's what you hear. There's not a lot of signage, any signage at all.
Yeah.
And you're still seeing that, and you're twice as high as what we were last year. Is it just because people are cheap ass or cheap curious, or is no one going up the sign, or are people the same right, or absorb the alcohol?
Yeah, a great question. So certainly when there's a lot of residential areas and other less busier arterial roadways that are down to the 40 kilometer an hour versus 50 kilometer an hour in the city of Edmonton. And so I think what we're still seeing though is that that probably works for the most part. We've all driven on the city streets out there. We know traffic volume in general slows vehicles down. But that being said, with these actual causes, these actual vehicles that we're seeing, these horrific crashes, they find a way to open it up. And I don't think it matters if it's 40 or 50 when they're going 50 kilometers above a speed limit.